packet. If not, then I can give you another copy, but you all have it. So this is just different ways that you could represent the same function. So you should be comfortable. If I give you a graph, you can write the equation. If I give you some information, you could write an equation. I always do the graph first, and then I build my table from whatever I graphed. So they're telling you the line has a y-intercept of 5 and a slope of 2. So we know that our equation is 2x plus 5. And for it to be an equation, it has to say y equals. Okay, so now someone remind me from Friday, where do I start graphing this? 5 on the y-axis. So there's my 5. And what's the slope of this line? So I can make any slope over 1. So I go up 2 over 1, right? It's eyes over the run. And then I could use my ruler to make a nice straight line. If there isn't a ruler in your side pocket and you want one, raise your hand. I can grab you one. Yeah, yours got broke during my advisory by my obnoxious freshman that I made $1. So you break my ruler. I need another ruler. So if you're slamming it on a desk, it's gonna break because it's plastic, and you're gonna owe me $1 so I can go buy another one. Or the math department's gonna buy another one. So, okay, what I would do is I would take those 3 points that I graphed, and I would put those in my table. So, for example, this is the point like -1, 3. So -1, 3. Then my y-intercept is at 0, 5. And my next point was at 1, 7. All right, I didn't graph it, but I could make a final point. What would it be? 2, what? Right, do you see the pattern? That the slope of 2 basically makes your y values go up by 2 every time. It's a pattern. So I'm just going to add 2, 9 to fill out my table. Okay, now you try example 2 for a minute on your own. It should say -1/3 right there. So if it doesn't say negative, can you write it a little darker? So see if you can do example 2. I would do the graph first and then do the table of values. So this is a quiz type question for Wednesday. We're going to do just a little graphing quiz on Wednesday, practicing it today and tomorrow. Kind of hold you accountable. I got to know how to graph a line by Wednesday. So I'm just going to put my number 3. We started at -2 on the y-axis, up 3 over 4, down 3 over 4. And we're connecting our dots, right? It's not a function if you don't actually connect the dots. Number 4, I purposely wrote it as f of x. F of x and y equals, it's just function notation. So if you needed some help with number 4, it's just y equals 2/3 x plus 0. If there's no y-intercept, that tells you it goes through the origin, through 0, through 0, 0. So you should be able to graph number 4. Number 5, take a stab at it. How do you get y by itself? See if you can try the couple algebra steps, see if you end up with the right answer. And then I'll put the correct equation up so that you don't have to graph it and make a mistake. But try to get y by itself in number 5 yourself. So I'll put up this graph, which was up 2 over 3 down. Make sure you did 2/3 and not 3/2. You rise 2 and you run 3 for number 4. You guys trying the algebra steps to get it right? Don't look it up. What are you trying to do? Because you need to know how to solve. Where is it? Right, so if this is a 4x, how can I bring a 4x to the other side? Subtract 4x from both plus negative 5. So now if this is a negative, remember what you're about to do? Change the sign all the way across. If it's negative, you change it to positive. If it's positive, you change it to negative. But they're all negative. So that makes y equals all positive. All right, so this last one. I'm trying to get the y by itself. So my first step would be to subtract the 4x to the other side. I know I didn't leave you a lot of room. So if you just want to look up here, think about what would be the next step. I don't have y by itself. I have negative y. So how do I switch it to a positive y? You're really just changing the sign all the way across, which is the same as dividing by negative 1 all the way across, because this is really negative 1 as a coefficient times y. So now I have y equals positive 4x, positive 5. And you can make that a slope of 4 over 1. So I know that it's hard to get it to fit going to the right, but you should be able to at least fit one more point that lies on your XY axis. Just go down instead. So if my graph is supposed to be 4x plus 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I've already maxed out because I'm at the top of my, up here. I would have had to go up 4 and over 1 in this direction, but isn't that the same as going down 4 and over 1 into the left? So I could go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1 in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, over in this direction. So it's still a positive slope, but if you run out of room going up, you can always go down and backwards, right? Because two negatives make a positive. So how are we feeling on, we think we're getting better at graphing lines, I hope. So before lunch, let's just look at resource page 1-4. And then that way when we get back, we can kind of jump into actually graphing them. There's not too much to actually do on this page. This is just kind of an introduction with the notes already written. So it's resource page 1-4 at the beginning. But I wrote these on here because I'll ask you these tomorrow, and then I'll ask you these again on the quiz on Wednesday. But what makes a system? We're jumping from just one line into multiple lines. So a system is just more than one equation. That's what makes it a system. So I'll be asking you maybe on the quiz or the test, what is a system of equations? Just more than one equation. What is the solution? What are we actually looking for? We're looking for the point xy that basically makes all of the equations true. So for example, on this graph, if I chose this point right here, that doesn't work in either of the equations. If I choose this point right here, like -1, 3, or whatever this is, -1, comma 2.5, it only works in, like, call this equation A and equation B. But if I choose this point right here, that falls on this line and it falls on this line. So the solution has to satisfy all of the equations. So there's 3 different things that we're going to see when we come back from lunch. We might try one now, I don't know. You might find one solution. So what is the solution to this problem? It looks like it intersects. Is this 3, 4 on your paper? So this has one solution, and it's at 3, 4. I'm going to add later on how to solve it algebraically in this column, but right now I can see that the answer is 3, 4. Okay, what else could happen? My lines could end up parallel to each other. Do you guys remember from geometry how to tell if you have a parallel set of lines? Remember what about the slope of parallel lines? Yeah. Yeah, see how this is a 2/5 x and this is also a 2/5 x? They just have a different y-intercept. What does parallel mean? They're never going to intersect. So there's no solution because they never will touch each other. So I can never find a point on this line that will be on that line at the same time. So this is no solution. So when you find that your graph comes out parallel, you have to actually write no solution. And then the last thing that might happen is you might end up with only one line on top of itself. And here's an example. So why does this come out as the same line? Because when I try to solve this for y equals, you don't have to write this part down, but my first step would be adding the 3x to the other side, and then see what happens when I divide by 3. I get y equals x plus 1, which is exactly what I started with. So even though here, is this technically a system of equations? Yeah, that's two different equations, but they simplify to the same thing. So now every single point on this line lies on both lines. So the answer, you can either write many solutions, or the better thing to write would be all points on the line. So you're going to look for one of those three outcomes. So you're looking for either where they intersect, no solution, or many solutions. And you can come back to this resource page to be like, okay, what situation do I have? So let me give you one example on page 105, and that way when you come back from lunch, you can kind of work through some of them on your own. Let's see. Let's fill those three in together after lunch without flipping back to our resource page. So we'll see if you remember those bold questions after lunch. But let's take a look at number 1 together. So see how it says we have to graph the system and state the solution. Talk me through the steps. How can I get this first equation into y equals? What would you actually have to do to your equation? Yep, start by dividing the entire equation by 2. Divide by 2. So that equation is going to turn into y equals, let's see, slope of 4, 4x minus 9. Okay, so I can graph that in a minute. How am I going to change the other equation? Oh man, these graphs came out really faint when I copied them. I'm sorry about that. Hopefully you can find where they intersect. What do I do in this equation to get y by itself? Subtract this 3x first. I'm going to write it over here. I have negative y equals negative 3x plus 7. And I'm not quite finished. This one is finished. What do I have to do to that one for my second step? Divide through by negative 1, which basically ends up changing all of the signs. So now I have 3x minus 7. So I have 4x minus 9 and 3x minus 7. This might be kind of tricky to graph because I didn't realize that the graph came out so hard to see. Let's see if we can find it together. So I start at negative 9, and I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. I'm not sure how far I'm going to have to go, so I'll do those 3 points for now. Let's see. 3x minus 7. Do I have another color? So I'm going to start at negative 7, and I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3 over 1, so I didn't hit it there. 1, 2, 3 over 1. Is it that point right there? I think. Yeah, so what point is that? Is that 2 comma negative 1? So here's how you tell if you got the right answer. I think I do, but it's hard to see on my graph. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that I was graphing it. Oops. Okay. Let's just check. How can I check that I got the right answer? So I can check I got the right answer because when I plug in 2 into these equations, I should get negative 1 as the answer. 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 minus 9 is negative 1. So now I'm going to double check. When I plug in 2 here, I get 6 minus 7, so that's also negative 1. So if you're unsure and it's hard to tell where they intersect, guess. I think it's at 2, negative 1, and then plug them in and it should work so that you know that you have the right answer. You shouldn't have to guess that the answer was right or wrong. That's one thing I always liked about math. Don't you like knowing that you got the right answer? was always so hard for me to be like, is this essay good? Like, do I have the right answer? Did I explain it enough? But math, it's like, yep, I know the answer is 2 comma negative 1. Got the answer. So you can either do the next problem or just wait. We're going to go to lunch in like, 2 minutes or so. So when you get back, we're going to try these practice problems on page 105. And maybe you'll fly through and you'll go back and you'll have time to do page 104, 6 through 9, and maybe you'll have time to start tonight's homework all before you leave. Didn't even notice. And then I called you the wrong name again. We're sitting in the exact same seat. So. Okay. Oh, it's Monday too. Yeah, that's the furthest. Their floor is the hardest to get in the morning. So I'm like, oh, like 5 minutes earlier. Oh, we haven't done that the Monday in a while. Oh wow. But somehow I'm never late. I'm doing. Oh, we have 4 minutes to share. 5 minutes. Extra walk. 5. Oh, you guys have new stuff? Oh, yeah. Are there a bunch of juniors in their line? Yeah. I think I'm gonna try one on Friday. I'm trying to figure out which day I can bring my son. He has like all different kinds. So he's like, I don't know. Maybe it's Friday. I think drums are like loud enough that it'll be able to see. It's appropriate though, right? Oh yeah. It's usually different. Yeah, there's like Saturday and night one. I have it up here. 6:30. Oh, maybe we can just come on Saturday. Can't wait. It'll be so good. All right, we'll see you after lunch. And if you missed the algebra to convert this equation into y equals, your first step would be subtract 6x to the other side. So you have, oh, you can't see anything. Always closed. Well, the test itself, usually on part 2, I let you use your resource pages from the front of the chapter. But quiz is closed note. Like there won't be a calculator on Wednesday's quiz because I want you to, hang on one second. So this would be equals negative 6x plus 14. I know I already put it up, but I didn't put in my video, so that way. Okay, so my other equation is 3x minus 7. The big idea is the answer is no solution because they were parallel. So now you're going to try example 3. You have to graph 3 lines, but we've got to know how to graph lines. This one ends up solving to be the exact same. I put the work up on the board, but they come out exactly the same. So you still need, for full credit, graph your y-intercept, and that you would go down 1 over 3, and then you'd say all points on the line, right? Because they're asking you, where do these lines intersect? They're on top of each other, so all points on the line. And then number 5, there's 2 things about it that take some skill. You have to know if that's vertical or horizontal, and you have to know what the slope of a negative x is. So what is its slope? If it's not written there, it's a 1, right? So this is really a negative 1x, and you can write any slope as a fraction by just putting it over 1. So this is negative 1 over 1x. This is a vertical line. So see if you can graph the vertical line at x equals 5 and intersect it with this line and find where they cross. We're trying to find where they cross. Did you make an equation? So 8 hours, you're just gonna plug it in for X. I would just type it in, like on your home screen, -2 times 8 plus 82, because you're just computing something. This they just want you to actually graph it. So you're graphing -4, and then f of x means y equals another way of writing the function. So you're just graphing -4 times y and putting it back. No, I don't know. But you can have a calculator. I know that. We only have about 5 minutes or so. So if you need some help on, yeah, what if you ran into your answer? Like, where did they get their sentence? That would have for that. So 5 comma 2. Oh, wait, 5 comma 2. Okay, so then to get full credit on that one, you also. Yes, but while you were gone, we realized that when we convert it into closed form, it comes out as the exact same equation we started with. So it actually would graph on top of itself, so your answers all point on the line. So then try to do example 5. I gave them the hint that this is a vertical line, and I wrote the slope for them, so an equation of it.
No, I'm fine with that because I set myself up.
So this is a table with them. Graph is going to be -4. And you got -4, 3 plus next point. So are you like, you're gonna be the one that needs to push to do stuff? You know how to graph lines? I'm just saying that people need practice on it. Dude, why are you gonna make work for yourself at your house? Well, go watch the movie. You're gonna watch the movie and do math? Why don't you do the math here so when you're at home you just watch the movie and you cover it?
Exactly.
Then you have your answer. I'm saying the homework, by all means, take the homework home and do it for the movie. Don't make more work for yourself to bring home though. I just wanted to show you how we're gonna plug them into the y equals menu. Yeah, I mean I have steps. Yeah, so tomorrow when we're doing that. Okay, so and you're not here tomorrow. So you're here tomorrow. You're not here tomorrow. Okay. Did you happen to request into my class for Wednesday, or she has a class meeting on Wednesday? Yeah, and then I have something on Friday. Okay. And then you must figure out this rule to do practice. Yeah. Okay. I know. Yeah. I mean, so they're taking it this Wednesday. I could probably try it. It's only on this. Yeah, but I mean, if you need to push it, there's no when, there's nowhere to do it unless you stay when they do you have to get a ride to the mountain. Yeah. I probably don't have to go to traffic. Okay. You might want to refill it. Okay. So maybe we can try to get you some. This is my last race. That's your last race? You guys are done? Well, no, not for the Oh. Okay. Okay, so maybe next week if you help. Okay. Because if you just want to try to stick to it, maybe we can do it like one of the days at the beginning of class. Like when they're doing the work time, like they're taking it on Wednesday, so maybe even Thursday. Maybe Wednesday when they're taking it, if you still need help, I could help you. And then plan on like Thursday at the beginning of class, and we're doing our warm up, you're just going to try it. Before I get back. Okay. So what do you think? I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, so the only thing you have to finish, if you didn't finish 1 through 7 and you want help on it, I could help you on it, but I'm not coming back to 105 tomorrow in class. I might do this the back of 104 as a warm up though. shower before I talk to you and cough in your face. Okay. What you got? So this one is actually working backwards. I'm going to plug 65 in here. Yeah. So then I'm actually subtract the 82. So that has to be out of -2 times x. So you want to divide that by -2, and then I'll tell you how. So what you get, 8.5 hours? You're trying to -2 times
No.